The rain came down in sheets, a relentless New York deluge that turned Manhattan's streets into rivers of neon and despair. Ellen Harper, 60 years old and soaked to the bone, stood frozen outside the glowing windows of La Belle Époque, a Michelin-starred restaurant where the elite sipped champagne and dined on caviar. Her heart plummeted as she spotted them, her family, her world, laughing around a pristine table draped in white linen. David, her husband of 30 years, raised a glass, his smile wide and carefree. James, their son, leaned toward his wife Lily, sharing a private joke. Little Ethan, their 8-year-old grandson, giggled as he swiped a finger through a tower of chocolate mousse. And there, at the head of the table, was Vanessa, David's old friend, radiant in a silk dress that screamed money. Ellen's breath caught, sharp as a knife. They were celebrating, toasting, living. Without her, all because she'd dared to dream of a single slice of Ledoux's famous chocolate cake for her 60th birthday. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a cruel interruption, an Instagram notification from Vanessa. The photo loaded slowly in the rain, the same scene she was witnessing, captioned, "Grateful for my chosen family. Nights like this are everything." Ellen's thumb hovered over the screen, but before she could react, the post vanished, deleted. Her stomach twisted. What was Vanessa hiding? The rain stung her eyes, or maybe those were tears. She stumbled back, her sneakers slipping on the slick pavement, and climbed into her old Honda, the one David always called a junkyard reject. The engine sputtered to life and she pulled into traffic, her vision blurred by water and heartbreak. A truck's horn blared as she swerved, missing its grill by inches, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. She gripped the wheel, whispering to herself, "Just get home, Ellen. Just get home." It had started 3 nights ago at their cramped Upper West Side apartment where the wallpaper peeled and the radiator hissed like a dying snake. Ellen had set the table with care, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans she'd trimmed herself. She'd even lit a candle, hoping to soften the mood. As David carved the chicken, she gathered her courage, her voice soft but steady. "My birthday's this weekend. I was thinking maybe we could go to Ledoux's in Manhattan, just for a slice of their chocolate cake. It's supposed to be incredible." The room went still. David's knife clinked against a plate, a sharp, jarring sound. He looked up, his gray eyes narrowing, his mouth curling into a sneer. "Ellen, how old are you again? 60? And you're still daydreaming about birthday cake? That place charges $150 for a piece of sugar. You think we're swimming in cash?" Ellen's fingers tightened around her napkin, her knuckles pale. She forced a smile, trying to keep the peace. "Vanessa went last week. She said it was unforgettable." Before she could finish, James cut in, his voice cold and clipped, like he was scolding a child. "Mom, Dad's right. Money's tight. We can't just throw it away on frivolous stuff." Lily, fork paused mid-air, shot Ellen a look that was half pity, half disdain. Then Ethan, his small face scrunching up, shoved his plate away and pinched his nose. "I don't want to sit next to Grandma. She smells like a chicken coop," he giggled, proud of his cruelty, and added, "Grandma's got no style. Vanessa says life should be glamorous." Lily stifled a laugh, covering Ethan's mouth, but her eyes held no reprimand. David cleared his throat, uncomfortable but silent. No one defended Ellen. No one ever did. The air grew heavy, suffocating. Ellen's throat tightened, words trapped like stones. She stood, her chair scraping the floor, and walked to the bedroom, the soft click of the door louder than any scream. Behind her, David's voice carried low and biting. "She's always been so competitive. Pathetic. Thinks she can measure up to Vanessa." Ellen pressed her palms to her eyes, willing the tears to stop. 30 years of marriage, 30 years of cooking, cleaning, sacrificing, reduced to a punchline. And then the doorbell rang, slicing through the silence like a... "Vanessa, you should have told us you were coming." David's voice lifted, fake cheer dripping from every syllable. The living room erupted. Ethan squealing, James and Lily fawning, their voices thick with admiration. Ellen cracked the door open, just enough to see Vanessa sweep in, her designer coat shimmering under the dim apartment lights. "Where's Ellen?" Vanessa asked, her tone syrupy with false concern. Lily chuckled. "Probably sulking again. You know how she gets." David's voice dropped, dismissive. "Don't even start. She's throwing a fit over some stupid cake. 60 years old and acting like a toddler." James piled on, eager to please. "Let's just ignore her, Vanessa. Tell us about that new gallery opening you're curating." Ethan clapped his hands. "Yay, Vanessa's awesome! No grandma allowed." The front door shut with a thud, the apartment falling silent. Ellen stood alone, staring at the half-eaten dinner on the table. Her hands trembled as she cleared the plates, the clink of porcelain mocking her. She was invisible, a ghost in her own home. Later, past midnight, she picked up her phone to text David just to check if they were safe. But another Instagram post from Vanessa stopped her cold. A new photo, already deleted but seared into her mind. David's arm around Vanessa's shoulders, James and Lily beaming, Ethan holding a sparkling dessert. The caption read, "Celebrating big wins with my favorite people." No Ellen, no trace of her. Why did Vanessa keep deleting these posts? Her phone slipped, hitting the floor, the screen cracking like her heart. The next morning, David acted as if nothing had happened. He tossed a suit onto the couch. "I earned this. I'm wearing it for the family photo shoot Vanessa booked." He paused, his lips curling into a smug smile. "She's got us a spot at that fancy studio downtown. Don't mess this up, Ellen." Ellen clutched the suit, her voice barely a whisper. "What about me?" David didn't answer. He just walked away, the door clicking shut behind him. That silence cut deeper than any insult. Desperate to reclaim something, anything. Ellen slipped into the bathroom, locking the door. She applied mascara, dabbed on lipstick, her hands shaking with every stroke. For the first time in years, she dressed for herself, pulling on a navy dress she'd bought at a thrift store but never worn. She stepped out, hoping for a flicker of approval. James nearly choked on his coffee. "Mom, what's with the face paint? You look like you're auditioning for a community theater grandma role." Lily smirked, her voice dripping with condescension. "Ellen, at our age, less is more. That makeup's aging you." Ethan hid behind Lily, his eyes wide. "Grandma looks like a Halloween witch." David just stared, cold and detached, like she was a stranger embarrassing him in public. Ellen's eyes burned, but she refused to cry. She retreated to the bathroom, scrubbing her face until her skin was raw. Later, while tidying David's study, she found it, a receipt for a $20,000 gold ring tucked inside a drawer. Her heart raced. Was it for her? A birthday surprise? But the date, last week, and the jeweler's note, custom engraving, D&V, crushed that hope. Who was this ring for? Her fingers shook as she snapped a photo of the receipt, saving it to her cloud. She didn't know why, but something told her to keep it. That night, Ellen couldn't sleep. The rain hadn't stopped, and neither had the ache in her chest. She stood by the window, watching the city lights blur through the storm. 30 years ago, David had promised her the world. Dinners at Ledoux's, a little bakery of her own. "When we're better off," he'd said, his eyes bright with love. Now those promises were ash, and Ellen was nothing but a joke to the family she'd built. But as she stared into the rain, a spark flickered deep inside her, small but unyielding. She wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The upper click of Ellen Harper's thrift store heels echoed in the Upper West Side apartment, a hollow sound swallowed by the peeling wallpaper and the hiss of the radiator. It was barely dawn, the sky outside still bruised with the last of the night's rain. But Ellen was already awake, her hands trembling as she folded David's suit over the back of a chair. Her 60th birthday was days away, and the memory of last night's humiliation at La Belle Époque clung to her like damp wool. The Instagram post, deleted but unforgettable, the gold ring receipt, burning a hole in her mind. D&V, David and Vanessa. She pressed her lips together, forcing her hands to steady as she smoothed the suit's lapels. 30 years of marriage, and she was still ironing his clothes, still playing the dutiful wife. But something had shifted last night, a crack in the foundation of her silence. She wasn't sure what it meant yet, but it felt dangerous and alive. David emerged from the bedroom, his tie loose, his graying hair slicked back. He didn't look at her, just grabbed his coffee mug and muttered, "Make sure that suit's ready for the photo shoot. Vanessa's got us booked at Studio Lumiere downtown." "Big deal, Ellen, don't screw it up." His voice was flat, like he was reading a grocery list. Ellen's throat tightened, but she forced the words out, soft but clear. "What about me? Am I included?" David froze, his mug halfway to his lips. He turned, his eyes narrowing, a sneer tugging at his mouth. "You? Ellen, come on, it's a family shoot. Vanessa's vision is sophisticated. Wear that loose black dress you've got, covers the flab. Don't embarrass us." The words landed like a slap, but Ellen didn't flinch, not this time. She met his gaze, her voice steady. "I'm not going." The air thickened, heavy with the weight of her defiance. David's face reddened, his mug slamming onto the counter, coffee sloshing over the rim. "What did you say?" he roared, stepping closer, his fist pounding the table so hard the silverware rattled. "You're pulling this diva crap now? After we've put up with your whining for years? Claire, you will go, or so help me." He cut off, his breath ragged, his eyes blazing. Ellen didn't move. "I have other plans," she said, her voice calm but unyielding, like steel wrapped in velvet. David's jaw clenched, his face a storm cloud. He jabbed a finger at her. "You're out of your mind. Vanessa went out of her way to include you, and this is how you repay her? You're pathetic." He stormed out, the door slamming so hard the chandelier upstairs tinkled. Ellen stood frozen, her heart pounding. Pathetic. The word echoed, but it didn't break her. Not today. She moved to the kitchen, her hands moving on autopilot, pulling out flour, eggs, butter. If she was going to be excluded, she'd make something of her own. She whipped up a breakfast spread that could have graced a magazine cover. Golden waffles, eggs Benedict with hollandaise so creamy it melted on the tongue, and coffee she'd ground herself, its aroma filling the apartment. She set the table with care, even laying out the good napkins, the ones they only used for guests. Maybe, just maybe, this would remind them who she was, who she'd always been. James and Lily shuffled in first, Ethan trailing behind, his nose buried in a handheld game. They stopped short, staring at the spread. James raised an eyebrow. "Mum, what's this, a buffet?" Lily wrinkled her nose, her voice dripping with disdain. "Waffles and hollandaise before a photo shoot? Are you trying to make us look bloated?" Ethan, without looking up, muttered, "Grandma's food's gross, smells like a diner." Ellen's smile faltered, but she held her ground. "I just thought we could eat together, like we used to." Her voice was soft, almost pleading, but James just snorted. "Mom, we're on a schedule. Venice is bringing something healthier." As if on cue, the doorbell chimed, and Vanessa swept in, a vision in a tailored coat, carrying sleek bags from a trendy juice bar. "Good morning, everyone," she chirped, her voice bright as a commercial. "I brought kale smoothies and quinoa bowls, perfect for keeping us camera ready." David's face lit up, his anger from moments ago forgotten. "Now this is what I call breakfast," he said, shoving Ellen's waffles aside to make room for Vanessa's offerings. Ethan cheered, grabbing a smoothie, while Lily murmured, "Vanessa, you're a lifesaver." Ellen stood silent, her hands clenching the edge of the table, her breakfast untouched, a monument to her invisibility. She excused herself, slipping into the hallway, her chest tight. The apartment's ancient elevator was waiting, its doors creaking open. She stepped inside, needing air, needing something, but as the doors closed, the elevator lurched, then stopped dead. The lights flickered, and a low hum filled the air. Ellen's breath caught, her claustrophobia clawing at her throat. She pressed the buttons frantically, but nothing happened. The walls seemed to close in, her pulse racing, her vision blurring. I'm trapped, she thought, her hands shaking as she pounded on the doors. Help, someone! Her voice cracked, echoing in the metal box. 30 minutes dragged by, each second a lifetime, until the super finally pried the doors open, his face annoyed. Lady, you okay? Happens sometimes. Ellen stumbled out, gasping, her legs like jelly. She didn't tell anyone. They wouldn't care. Back upstairs, the family was ready to leave for the shoot. David glanced at her, his irritation palpable. We're taking the SUV. No room, Ellen. Studio's not far. Walk. James nodded, eager to back him up. Yeah, Mom, fresh air'll do you good. Lily didn't even look up from her phone. Ethan giggled. Grandma's gonna get all sweaty. Vanessa, buckling Ethan into his seat, flashed a sugary smile. Sorry, Ellen, I get carsick, need the front. Ellen said nothing, her jaw tight. She watched them pile into the car, the engine roaring as they pulled away, exhaust stinging her eyes. She called a taxi, the fare eating into her meager savings, but she didn't care. She arrived at Studio Lumiere before them, her chin high despite the ache in her chest. The studio was a sleek, modern space, all glass and chrome, buzzing with assistants and photographers. Ellen stood by the entrance, clutching her purse when their SUV rolled up. David's eyes widened, clearly startled to see her. Vanessa, stepping out in heels that clicked like gunfire, gave a mocking laugh. A cab, Ellen? That must have cost a pretty penny. Couldn't wait to join the fun. Her tone was light, but the barb was sharp. Ellen met her gaze, unflinching. At least I paid for it myself, she said, her voice low but pointed. Vanessa's smile froze, her eyes narrowing, but before she could retort, David stormed over. What the hell was that? He hissed, grabbing Ellen's arm, his fingers digging into her skin. You don't talk to Vanessa like that. Apologize, now. His face was inches from hers, his breath hot with rage. Ellen tried to pull away, but he tightened his grip, shoving her toward a table stacked with lighting equipment. Her back slammed into the edge, pain flaring through her spine, a bruise already forming. She gasped, her knees buckling, and for a moment the room spun. She clutched the table to stay upright, but the pain was searing and darkness crept into her vision. Not now, she thought, fighting it, but her body betrayed her. She collapsed, her head grazing a metal stand as she fell, the clang echoing in the silent studio. Murmurs rippled through the room. An assistant rushed over, helping her to a chair, but David just stood there, his face a mask of annoyance. Get up, Ellen, you're making a scene. Vanessa, ever the saint, pressed a hand to her chest. Oh, Ellen, are you okay? You really need to be more careful. Her concern was as fake as her smile. James, his arms crossed, muttered, Mom, seriously, this is embarrassing. Ellen's head throbbed, her back screaming, but she forced herself to sit up, her voice hoarse. I'm fine. She wasn't, but she wouldn't give them the satisfaction. The shoot was delayed, as Ethan, suddenly clutching his stomach, let out a wail. It hurts, my tummy. He doubled over, his face pale, tears streaming. David's gaze snapped to Ellen, his voice low and venomous. What did you feed him? Did you do this on purpose? Trying to sabotage us? Ellen shook her head, still dizzy, her words tumbling out. He didn't eat my food. He had Vanessa's yogurt. You saw him? But David wasn't listening. He scooped Ethan up, barking at James and Lily. We're taking him to the ER. This is on you, Ellen. Vanessa stepped back, her eyes wide with feigned shock. Ellen? How could you say that? It was just plain yogurt. Organic. James glared, his voice cutting. Mom, you're unbelievable. If Ethan's hurt, this is your fault. They rushed Ethan to the hospital, Ellen trailing behind in another taxi, her back throbbing with every bump. In the sterile exam room, the doctor flipped through Ethan's chart, his tone casual. Looks like a stomach spasm, probably from chilled yogurt, common in kids. He'll be fine with some probiotics. The room fell silent, the truth hanging heavy. Vanessa's yogurt. Not Ellen's food. David grunted, his face tight, but offered no apology. Instead, he muttered, You should have stopped him from eating it, Ellen. Typical. James piled on, his voice sharp. Why didn't you watch him closer? You're always screwing up. Lily, cradling Ethan, shot Ellen a look of pure venom. If he'd gotten worse, I'd never forgive you. Ellen stood numb, their words a cold rain washing over her. A nurse, noticing her pale face and the way she clutched her back, pulled her aside. You don't look so good, she said softly, slipping a business card into Ellen's hand. My friend Sarah's a lawyer, specializes in difficult family situations. Call her. Ellen took the card, her fingers trembling, and whispered, Thank you. The nurse's kindness was a lifeline, a spark in the dark. Back home, Ellen found David's phone buzzing on the coffee table, left behind in the chaos. A group chat notification glowed on the screen, and curiosity, dangerous, reckless curiosity, pulled her in. The messages were a gut punch. Pare creto. Given today's drama, let's reschedule the shoot for next week. No Ellen this time. Thoughts? David, perfect. She's a liability. James, I'm in. Mom's unhinged. Lily, Vanessa, Ellen's too emotional. The words blurred as tears welled up, but Ellen didn't cry. She set the phone down, her hands steady now, and walked to the study. In a dusty filing cabinet she found it, the deed to the apartment, her name alone scrawled across the title. Her parents had insisted on it before she married David. A woman needs her own home, her father had said. She'd forgotten that strength, but now it roared back to life. Did David know the apartment was hers? And if he did, why had he never mentioned it? The question gnawed at her, a seed of suspicion taking root. She tucked the deed away, her mind racing. That night she sat in the dark, the city's hume filtering through the window. She thought of Sarah, the lawyer, of the ring receipt, of Vanessa's deleted posts. Something was wrong, deeply, dangerously wrong, and Ellen was done being the victim. The next morning, David was back to his routine, oblivious to the storm brewing in Ellen's heart. He tossed a list of chores on the table. Vanessa's staying over tonight. Clean the guest room, and pick up some of that face wash she likes. He paused, his tone icy. It's your birthday soon, right? Don't make a big deal out of it. We're going to Le Cirque with Vanessa. If you want to come, figure it out. He walked out, leaving Ellen staring at the list, her pulse hammering. Le Cirque, the place she'd dreamed of for her birthday, now twisted into another stage for Vanessa's triumph. That evening, Ellen took a cab to Le Cirque, her thrift store dress carefully pressed, her hair pinned up. Through the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows, she saw them, David, Vanessa, James, Lily, Ethan, laughing around a candlelit table. David's hand rested on Vanessa's arm, his smile brighter than Ellen had seen in years. Ethan snuggled against Vanessa, giggling. Ellen's heart sank, but she walked in, her head high. David glanced up, his expression flat. Oh, you're here. Sit over there. He pointed to a chair near the kitchen where servers bustled past. Ellen sat, her hands folded, steeling herself for the inevitable. Vanessa, all smiles, slid a gift box across the table. Happy birthday, Ellen. I picked this just for you. Her voice was saccharine, her eyes glinting with malice. Ellen opened the box, her stomach churning. Inside was a cheap bottle of anti-aging cream, the kind sold in drugstore clearance bins. Laughter rippled around the table, Vanessa's the loudest. It's amazing, Ellen. My friend swears it took years off her face. You should try it. Well, you know, the implication hung heavy. You're old. You're irrelevant. David chuckled, James smirked, and even Ethan giggled. Grandma's gonna look like a zombie. Ellen's cheeks burned, but she didn't speak. She set the box down, her silence louder than any retort. After dinner, Vanessa suggested riding back with them. David, eager as a puppy, held the car door for her. Ellen, you'll be fine, right? He said, not waiting for an answer. She didn't wait for them. She ordered her own cab, the fare another dent in her savings, and rode home alone, the city lights blurring through her tears. In her bedroom, she lay staring at the ceiling, the chandelier's flicker syncing with her heartbeat. Voices drifted from the guest room. David and Vanessa, their words muffled but clear enough. "If we mortgaged the apartment, we could bankroll that art fund Vanessa's pitching," David said, his voice thick with excitement. "It's a gold mine. The place is worth millions now." Vanessa laughed, low and smug. "What if Ellen says no?" David's reply was a sneer. "Her? She's spineless, always has been. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her." Ellen's nails dug into the bedsheet, tearing the fabric. Tears soaked her pillow, but her resolve hardened. They thought her weak, but they were wrong. The next day was Vanessa's birthday, and David spared no expense. He came home with a towering chocolate cake from Le Duc, the very cake Ellen had wanted, its layers glistening under the kitchen lights. "Vanessa deserves the best," he said, lifting the box like a trophy. Ellen couldn't hold back. "Is it worth it? That cake's more than my monthly budget." David didn't look at her. "If Vanessa wants it, it's worth it. Stop comparing yourself to her. You'll never measure up." The words cut deeper than any knife, but Ellen swallowed them, her jaw tight. While tidying the study, she overheard James and Lily in the next room, their voices hushed but sharp. "I found a great assisted living place," Lily said. "Full care, safe for someone Ellen's age. She shouldn't be alone." James nodded. "Good call. Vanessa's been eyeing the master bedroom. Dad's on board." Lily hesitated. "He really said that?" James sighed. "Yeah, we need to start prepping Mom. She'll fight it, but it's for the best." Ellen's blood ran cold. They weren't just excluding her. They were erasing her, clearing space for Vanessa to take her place. That night, instead of cooking dinner, Ellen slipped out to a yoga studio she'd seen advertised at the community center. The instructor, a young woman with a warm smile, greeted her. "First time? What's your goal?" Ellen looked in the mirror, her eyes swollen but fierce. "I want to be strong," she said, inside and out. The class was grueling, her muscles screaming, but each stretch felt like a step toward reclaiming herself. She signed up for a month, her savings dwindling, but it was worth it. She was worth it. Back home, she found a small velvet box tucked in the back of her closet, hidden in a coat pocket. Her hands shook as she opened it. 2 gold rings, engraved with David and Vanessa. Her breath hitched, her vision blurring. She closed the box, her resolve crystallizing. That night, she planted a tiny recording device at the top of the staircase, its red light blinking in the dark. Around midnight, David crept downstairs, his voice a low murmur on the phone. "The rings are safe," he said, his tone tender, unfamiliar. "Once Ellen's out of the picture, we can be together for real. Sell the apartment, travel the world." Vanessa's laugh was sharp, satisfied. "She begged me to edit her out of the family photos today. Wanted to look thinner, pathetic." David snorted. "Let her play her games. She'll be gone soon, and we'll have the real family portrait." Ellen gripped the recorder, her knuckles white. The last thread of hope snapped, but in its place was something new, rage, pure and clarifying. The next day, while the family left for Vanessa's birthday lunch, Ellen stayed behind, claiming a headache. She sat by the window, the morning sun warming her face, and dialed Sarah's number. The lawyer's voice was calm, authoritative. "Ellen, from what you've told me, this is emotional abuse. We can build a case, but we'll need evidence. Infidelity, financial misconduct, anything you can get." Ellen nodded, her voice steady. She spent the day combing through David's files, her hand steady despite her racing heart. In a locked drawer, she found it. Photos of David and Vanessa, some decades old, others from last month at a Hamptons resort. Bank statements showed monthly transfers to Vanessa's account, tens of thousands of dollars. A contract for an art fund with Vanessa's name and David's signature. Ellen made copies, her movements precise, and locked everything back exactly as it was. When she was done, she felt it. Calm, like the eye of a storm. Days later, David and James cornered her in the living room, their faces smug. "We need you at the notary's office this afternoon," David said, his tone casual but edged. Just a signature. Vanessa found an investment opportunity. We're mortgaging the apartment. Huge returns. James nodded, his eyes hard. It's for the family, Mom. Don't make this difficult. Ellen looked at them, her lips curving into a faint smile. I'm not signing anything, she said, her voice soft but unshakable. David's face purpled, his fists slamming the table. Claire Harper, after all we've done for you? 30 years and you stab us in the back? You're selfish, James jumped in, his voice shaking. How could you? Vanessa's been nothing but kind, and you're spitting in her face. Ellen reached into her bag, pulling out a folder. She laid it on the table, her movements deliberate. I've been prepared for this, she said, opening it to reveal the deed, the photos, the bank statements, the ring receipt. The apartment's in a trust, my trust. You can't touch it. And this morning, I filed for divorce. She tapped the folder, her voice like iron. The courts will find this compelling. David's face drained of color, his mouth working soundlessly. James stammered, Mom, you can't. This is insane. Ellen stood, her eyes locking with David's. No, David. I'm finally sane. She walked away, their shouts fading behind her. That afternoon, she sent copies of Vanessa's financial records to her Art Foundation's board, detailing years of embezzlement. 2 months later, Ellen stood in the doorway of 60 and Strong, her new bakery in the heart of Soho. The gold sign gleamed, the air thick with the scent of chocolate and courage. Her yoga instructor, now her manager, grinned as customers lined up for Ellen's signature tarts. Marissa, a regular, clutched a tiramisu, her eyes wide. Ellen, this is unreal. Teach me your secret. Ellen laughed, scooping another slice onto Marissa's plate. This was her life now, built from the ashes of 30 years. One spring afternoon, 6 months after opening, Ellen was kneading dough when she glanced out the window. David, Vanessa, and James stood outside, their faces haggard, their clothes rumpled. Vanessa had been fired, her career in ruins. David's real estate license was revoked after an ethics probe. James, his arrogance gone, looked like a man who'd lost his bearings. Mom, he said, his voice breaking, can we talk? Ellen wiped her hands, her smile gentle but firm. My customers are waiting, she said. You're welcome to browse. She turned away, a group of college girls bursting through the door, their laughter filling the shop. Ellen, we're here, they called, waving like they'd found home. She pulled them into a hug, the sunlight streaming through the windows casting her in gold. Today, she said, winking, we're making courage tarts. The girls cheered, rushing to the kitchen. From the corner, Sarah, her lawyer and friend, raised a coffee cup in salute. Your ex stood out there for an hour, she said, grinning. Karma's a hell of a baker. Ellen smiled, glancing at the retreating figures of David, Vanessa, and James. They don't matter anymore, she said softly. The oven dinged, and she turned back to her work, her shadow stretching tall across the floor. This was her story now, and she was writing it with every tart, every laugh, every step toward the woman she'd always been meant to be.